Good afternoon, everybody, and Shabbat Shalom. We're going to get started with our Mincha service, our afternoon service. I'm going to share my screen so we can follow along in the Siddur together. We'll begin with the Ashrei, page 120. Ashrei Yoshmei Beitecha Helu Chasela Shem Shikach Lo Shream Shalom Hamsala Vidim Tihilat Adonai Rabbi Vivarech Abbas Hashem Kol Shalom V'Nachnu Nevarech Yamet Taviad Olam Hallelujah. Please rise for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yikadav Yikadash Merabah Be'alvani Rachirutei V'Yamlich Malchutei B'Chayechon V'Yamechon V'Chay L'Chol B'Yit Yisrael Bagalav Izman Karib Veiru Amein Yesh Merabah Mavorach Le'Lam L'Mei Almaya Yitzbarach V'Yishtabach V'Yitzbar V'Yitmar V'Nasei V'Yitadav V'Yitalei V'Yitalal Shmedekut Shah B'Richuhu Leila Mikol Berchata B'Shirata Tushum Chata V'Nechmata Da Amiran Be'Ama V'Yiru Amen. We remain standing as we begin the Mincha Amidah together here on page 122b. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor V'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaTov V'Zocher Chesdei Avot ומביא גואלים בני בניהם למען שלום יהבה מלך חוזר פוקד מושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיים איתי מטרה להושיע מוריד הטף מחכה חיים בחסד מחיים איתי ברחמים רבים שמח נופלים ברופך ולמתיר שרי ומקיים את אמונתו לשני עפר מחמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך מלך ומיתום חיים להצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים נקדש את שמך בעולם לשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב אל אביך וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאו מלך הארץ כבודו לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו דברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור נגידו לך ונצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושיבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד כי מלך גדול וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. If you have not yet completed your Amidah, please continue to do so at your own pace. Our service continues with Kaddish Shalem and Aleinu here on page 134. Yitzkara v'yitzkara shemei rabba be'alma nivrach yirtei v'yamich malchutei v'chayechon v'mechon v'chaylecho b'Yisrael ba'agalav izman kari ve'imeru amen Yehi shmei rabba mevorach le'olam olamei hamaya Yitbarach, Yitzbarach, Yishabach, Yitzbarach, Yishabach, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalo, Shemede, Kucha, Brichu, Laila, Minko, Virchata, Vishirata, Vishurata, Nechmata, Dat Miramiyama, Veimeru, Amen. Tikabal, Tzofan, Watanochiso, Kodvahon, Vishmaya, Veimeru, Amen. Yishnam, Rabbi, Shemaya, Vachaim, Lenim, Israel, Veimeru, Amen. Ose Shalom, Rama, Huyase Shalom. Aleinu, Beko, Israel, Veimeru. Amen. Aleinu l'tshabeach la'adon hakol la'teit gedula liyotzeh breshit shelo asanu ki goy ha'aratzot velo hosamanu kemishpachot ha'adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem vegor aleinu kechol hamonam va'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שנשמע בסופו של דבר כן נקבל לכם ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Today is the 3rd of Av, on which we recall the yortzites of Phyllis Burkett, Bent Carden, Diane Chabot, Keith Edward Goes, Farangis Halusin, Jean Hopp, Frangis Kashfian, Idel Korngut, Mojgan Moftakar, Konstantin Margulis, Sam Rosenwald, Beatrice Siegel, and Julius Weinberg. In a moment, we're going to bring in the 4th of Av together, on which we recall the yortzites of Firuze Cohen Afar, Zotliman Cohen, Hal Koski, Moshe Kohazadeh, Ibrahim Labian, Jamar McDaniel, Ida Miller, Ruh Holland Rahman, Selma Rubin, William Smallberg, Mayor Tabixman, Gary Thomas, and Ida Zuckerberg. I invite all those who are in a period of mourning to rise, and we say the words of the mourner's Kaddish together. Yit Gadal ve'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah Be'alma Yivrach Yirutei V'yamlich Malchutem V'chayecho U'v'yomecho U'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Ba'agala U'bizman Kariv Ve'imru Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Ve'lam U'lomei Amayad Yitbarach Ve'yishtabach Ve'yitba'ar Ve'yitramam Ve'yitnasei Ve'yitadar Ve'yitalei Hitalal Shmei Dekudsha Brichu La'edla Min Kol Birchata B'Shirata Tushbechata V'nechamata Damiram Be'ama Ve'imru Amen Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imru Amen Oseh Shalom B'Rama Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imru Amen. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We're going to get started with our Kabbalat Shabbat service. Don't mind my children fighting in the background. They don't do it all the time, only when I'm leading services. So don't worry about that. They're fine. Also, I'm going to share my screen for our Kabbalat Shabbat service, and we'll begin together with Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh Al HaRachaman Yedid Nefesh Al HaRachaman Men Shochavdach Ananai Nai El Ritzonah Men Shochavdach Ananai Nai El Lechunerana Adonai Naria Letzor Hishenu. Lechuneranena, Lechuneranena, Lechuneranena Adonai. Lechuneranena, Lechuneranena, Lechuneranena Adonai. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Dekat Mafana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Bizmiro Naria Lo. Lechuneranena, Lechuneranena, Lechuneranena Adonai. Lechuneranena, Lechuneranena, Lechuneranena Adonai. One more time, Lechuneranena, 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 Lechuneranena Adonai. Lechuneranena, Lechuneranena, Lechuneranena Adonai. Arba'im shana akut bedor, va'ohom aram toe levahem, vehem lo yadu derachai, asher nishpati be'api, im yevohu el menuchati. Here, I'll try to zoom out a bit so that way you can see. You'll notice the Hebrew, of course, is on the is here, and the English for transliteration. If the Hebrew is hard to follow along, you can try to follow along down here in the red, the transliterated Hebrew. Shiru ladonai shir hadash, shiru ladonai kol haaretz, shiru ladonai baruch shemo basru miyom leyom yeshuato, tzapru bagoyim kevodo, bet kol ha'amim nifleotam, ki gadol Adonai, umula Adonai Malach Tagel Haaretz Yismechu Im Rabim. We continue on our own on this page, on page 15, through the end of the psalm. Ohave Adonai Sinura Shomer Nafshot Hasidav Meyad Reshaim Yatzilem Orzaru Ala Tzadik O Yisrael Simcha Simchu Tzadikim Badonai Vehodu Lezecher Kodsho. We'll continue together where the red arrow is here with the words Romemu, the red arrow both in the Hebrew and the transliteration. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. rise for Psalm 29, Mizmor LeDavid. Mizmor LeDavid, Abul Adonai B'Neili, Abul Adonai, Kavod Laos, Nai Nai Nai, Abul Adonai, Kehot Shemot, Yishlach Abul Adonai, Be'Hadra Kodesh, Kol Adonai, Kol Hamayim, Be'elek Avodim, Adonai, Hamayim Rabim, Kol Adonai, Bakorach, Nai Nai Nai, Kol Adonai, Mehadar, Kol Adonai, Shomer Harazim, Meshaber Adonai, Bechazei Abaddon, Bayarkidehem Kemo Egel, Lebanon, B'Sivyon, Kemo Meirei, Nai Nai Nai, Kol Adonai, Chotzev Labarish, Kol Adonai, Yaskil Midbar, Yachil Adonai, Mir Bakadish, Kol Adonai, Echol Hayadot, Vayecheso, Ye'arot, U'echalo, Kulo, Omer Kavod, Ay Nai, Adonai, Lava, Uyashabayishem, Adonai, Melech Me'olam, Adonai, Os, Ve'yamoitem, Adonai, Yevarech et Amo V'Shalom, Yai, Yai, Nai, 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 Yai, Nai, 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 Yai, Nai, 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 Nai. Tonight we're going to do a special melody for Lecha Dodi. This coming week we mark Tisha B'Av, the day that is most tragic during the entire year. This is the day that marks the destruction of both the first and second temple, and a little more that we're going to talk about in between Kabbalat, Shabbat, and Mariv. And on Wednesday night, we're going to sing Eicha together. Lamentations, one of the 5 Megillot that we chant throughout the year. And Eicha, the special Megillah that we read on Tisha B'Av, has unique trope. And it sounds like this. Da 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 da. And the melody we're going to use for the Chadodi tonight was written to sing before the Shabbat, before Tisha B'Av. It incorporates that melodic theme from the trope. Yeah, da 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 da. And so you can listen to that melodic theme from Megillah Eicha that we're going to sing tonight for the Chadodi. Lechadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat lekabela. Lechadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat lekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Ishmiya Shabbat into our homes. Boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala, dam besimcha uv'zohala, tochem uneh segula, boi kala, boi kala. Mizmor Shilium HaShabbat. We'll join together at the red arrow for Tzadik Katamar. Tzadik Katamar Yifrach Ge'eret Bavano Yizkeh Mikolo ma'im rabim adirim mishperei yaham adir b'marom Adonai elotecha nemnu me'od v'etanav ha'kodesh Adonai le'orech yamim. I invite all those who are in a period of mourning to rise and recite the words of the mourner's Kaddish together with me. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah ve'alma li'ra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei ve'chayechon u'v'yom echon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv ve'imru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah ve'varach le'olam olamei amayam. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yipa'ar ve'yitramam ve'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, v'yitalei, v'yithalal, shmei dekudsha brichu le'ela, min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbehata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shlama rabbah min shmaya v'chaim aleinu ve'okol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Noseh shalom imramav, hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'okol Yisrael ve'imru Amen. Before we begin the evening service, I would like to share a few words about this week's Torah portion, especially in relation to Tisha B'Av. So on Tisha B'Av, this coming Wednesday night and Thursday, we mark the most tragic day in our calendar. And as I mentioned earlier, it marks the tragedies of the destruction of the first and second temple, and it also marks the day that God decreed that the Israelites should not enter the land of Israel. Those Israelites who came out of the land of Egypt were then destined to die in the wilderness and not enter the land of Israel. Why was it that they weren't allowed to enter the land of Israel? Well, if you remember, it was because of the sin of the spies. 12 spies are sent into the land of Israel to determine if they are able to conquer it or not. When they come back, 2 of them, Caleb and Joshua, say they can do it. Let's have faith in God. We can go and conquer the land of Israel. And 10 of them say, there's no way we can do it. And then the whole of the Israelite people listens to those 10 and lacks faith, doesn't go into the land of Israel, they don't think they can conquer it. And because of their lack of faith, God says, you may not go into the land of Israel. Your children will, but you may not. That happened on Tisha B'Av too. And that's what I want to focus on, because we read about that sin in this week's Torah portion in Devarim. But I want to point out something really interesting about this particular sin. And there's 3 times that it's mentioned in the Torah. The first is when it actually happens in the book of Numbers. The second is when God refers to it in the book of Numbers. And the third here, when Moses refers to it in the book of Deuteronomy. In the first chapter, in Deuteronomy 1, verse 22, let me read Moses' account of the sin of the spies. He says, "Then all of you came to me and said, 'Let us send men ahead to spy out the land for us and bring back word on the route we shall follow and the cities we shall come to. I approved of the plan, and I elected 12 of your men, 1 from each tribe.'" Moses begins by saying, you all came to me. This was your idea to send spies into the land of Israel. That's his account in Deuteronomy. Now, I want to read the original account in the book of Numbers. In the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verse 1, it says, "Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, 'Send men to scout the land of Canaan, which I'm giving to the Israelite people. Send 1 man from each of their ancestral tribes, each one a chieftain among them.'" In the original account, it's not the people that tell Moses to send the spies, it's God. And then here, later in that same parsha, it says, let's see, God says, "As for the men whom Moses sent to scout the land, those who came back and caused the whole community to mutter against him, they shall not enter the land of Israel." That's in chapter 14, verse 36. 3 different accounts of sending the spies into the land of Canaan. In the book of Deuteronomy, Moses blames the people. In the book of Numbers, in Parshat Shlach, God blames Moses, the people who you sent into the land, Moses. And then the Torah itself begins by saying it was God who sent it. So who sent the spies into the land of Israel? Whose fault was it, so to speak? Was it God? Was it Moses? Was it the Israelites? This is the major sin that caused this generation to die in the wilderness. So whose fault was it? This, I think, is the real tragedy of the sin of the spies and this particular sin on Tisha B'Av. It's not just that the Israelites lacked faith. It's that this decision to send the spies into the land of Israel is done without anybody taking responsibility for it. It's a bad choice. They should not have sent spies in. They should have had faith in God and just gone. They just saw the sea of reeds split on both sides. They lived through the 10 plagues. They know the power of God, yet they decided to send spies. And nowhere does anybody stand up and say, this was my decision and it was a wrong one. And I'm sorry for it. We learn from this as we go into Tisha B'Av, this tragic week in our calendar, that tragedies happen. We can't avoid it. We're human and we're Jews, so we know that tragedies happen. But in our own lives, when we make bad choices, if we refuse to take responsibility for them, that's when the tragedy truly occurs. It's not just that bad things happen. And it's not just that we make bad choices. But it's when we refuse to take responsibility for them, that is the real tragedy. When our leaders refuse to take responsibility, when we refuse to take responsibility. And here in this Torah portion, we even see that sometimes we can hold God accountable too. So with that, Shabbat Shalom. We will read the book of Eicha and mark this tragic day in our calendar on Wednesday night and Thursday. I invite you to join us on Zoom for that service. We're going to begin the Mariv service together with the Baruch. I ask you to please rise and we'll begin our service together. Shabbat Shalom. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai Mevorach Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated. We continue with the first blessing before the Shema. Baruch Atah Umavir Yom Umehi V'Layla Mavdil Ben Yom U'Layla Adonai Tzevaot Shemo Elchai V'Kayam Tamid Meloch Aleinu Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Hamari Barabim. We'll continue with Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al Kain Adonai Eloheinu B'shkochmeinu v'kumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'v'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed. Kihem chayenu be'orech yameinu be'orech yameinu U'bahem neged yomam v'layla Ve'avatcha al tesir mimenu le'olam Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. We join together for the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בשיטתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם במזוזות ביתך ובישעריך We continue on our own through the second and third paragraphs of the Shema. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Adonai Elohechem Emet. We continue together here on page 43. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם, משה בן ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם. We join together for מיכה מוחה. מיכה מוחה באלים אדוני, מיכה מוחה נהדר בקודש, נורא 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 תהילו עושה פלא. מיכה מוחה באלים אדוני, מיכה מוחה נהדר בקודש, נורא נורא תהילות עושה פלא. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מיכה מוחה באלים אדוני, מיכה מוחה נהדר בקודש, נורא 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 תהילות עושה פלא, עושה פלא, עושה פלא. ונאמר כי פדרנה את יעקב ולא יחזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל Yisrael. We join together for the words of Hashkivenu, asking God to help us lie down in peace and to wake us up tomorrow in peace and health and security and love. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, vehamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, vehamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeiteinu uvoeinu lechaim ushalom ve'ata ve'at olam. Shmor Tzeitenu, V'Oin L'chaim L'Shalom E'ata Ve'adotam, Ufos Aleinu Sukkah Shlomecha, Baruch Ata Adonai, Haporei Sukkah Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Amo Yisrael, Ve'al Yerushalayim. We rise for Vishamru. Vishameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam, hayai beini u'bein b'nei Yisrael. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei rabba be'amadi rachirutei ve'amlich malchutei b'chayechonu yomechon u'chayedecho beit Yisrael bagala bagala u'mizman kariv v'yimeru amen yeshmei rabba mevorach le'alam alam yomaya Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitbar, V'yitroma minaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei Bekutsha Brichu, Le'ela Mincho Berchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, Damiran Be'alma, V'yimeru, Amen. We continue with the silent Amidah for the evening service. We'll take this time to chant through the words of the Amidah or for your own private prayers and reflections. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach U'Yagi. We'll conclude our Amidah with a prayer for peace. The words of Oseh Shalom can be found down here in the Hebrew, or on the very bottom of the page in the red transliteration. Oseh Shalom bin Roma, Oseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. הוא עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. הוא עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. We conclude our service with Kaddish Shalem and Aleinu. Yitzkara v'yitzkara shemei rabba be'aman yivrach yutem lichmachute b'chaye chore v'mechore chaylecho b'Yisrael b'agalav yisman kari v'himeru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach ve'olam olam me'almaya yitzbarach yitzbarach yishabach yitzbarach v'minasei v'yitzara v'yitzalei v'yitzalo shemei lekucha b'richu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechmata ga'amiran be'alma ve'imeru amen. תקבל צאתון ואותו בכל ישראל, כל מחוד וישמעיה ואמרו אמן. נשלם הרב מן שמעיה וחיים עלינו בכל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו בכל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגופר עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. אוקיי, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad. In love, we remember those who no longer walk this earth. We are grateful to God for the gift of their lives and for the cherished memories which endure. This week, we mark the passing of Nejatola Zarabi, who passed on the 21st of July and the 1st of Av, husband of Pari Ashuri Zarabi, father of Yusef Zarabi, Shira Norman, Farad Zarabi, and Loretta Levy. Also, we mark the passing of Audrey Lee Hickman, who passed away on the 22nd, on the 1st of Av, wife of Vernon Hickman, mother of Michael Hickman, and Patricia and Penny Dane. This week, the 4th through 10th of Av, we mark the following yurtzites: Firuza Cohen Afar, Lawrence Amsterdam, Samuel Amsterdam, John Bieber, Lois Berman, Malka Belauer, Lillian Block, Jeanette Broder, David Bennett Castle, Soliman Cohen, Hal Koski, Solomon Danishvar, Solomon Dayan, Faye Eagle, Elias Ashagian, Shochrola Famian, the All Swanger family, Ann Fingerman, Fern Fleischman, Evelyn Gabai, Sultan Gabai, Mildred Geiber, Harold Gobin, Moses Goldstein, Even Golach, Adele Goret, Terry Gotting, Ann Green, Carolyn Green, Hilda Horney, Moshaze Kohanzadeh, Milton Cohn, Simcha Leiner, Marianne Levine, Oladaya Lavi, Ibrahim Levine, Freda Lerner, Don Levine, Ray Thomas Levy, Michael Lewis, Gertrude Licker, Abraham Lowinger, Jack Lowe, Nushafarin Marvizi, Ruholan Matian, Jamar McDaniel, Miriam Merowitz, Ida Miller, Eshan Mokhavim, Ibrahim Moradzadeh, Frank Morgenstein, Shocher Lanasi, Bella Newson Hazan, Bella Newson, Mimi Platt, Ruholan Rachban, Mariam Rof, Riva Rochlin, Isaac Rosenzweig, Selma Rubin, Suzanne Sadiq, Ben Salkin, Eduardo Sarlui, Abraham Schleifer, Sidney Schwartz, Abdullah Shafai, Maury Shepard, Hyman Simmons, Sidney Slipkov, William Smallberg, Jack Spivak, Nathan Starman, Ella Steiner, Mayor Tabexman, Rosa Taubman, Gary Thomas, Davud Tishby, Peter Wolheim, Samuel Yaroslav, Bennett, Adam Young, and Ida Zuckerberg. We invite all those who are in a period of mourning to rise and to say the words of the Martyr's Kaddish along with me. Yit Gadal Be'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah Be'omah Tigrach Chirutei V'yamlich Malchutei V'chayechon V'yomechon V'chayei Decho Beit Yisrael Ba'agala V'zman Karib V'imru Amen Yitei Shmei Rabbah B'varach Ne'elam U'lamei Amaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitraman V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitableh V'yitalal Shmei Dekutsha Richu La'ela Min Kol Mirkata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Ka'amiran Be'ama V'imru Amen Yehi Shlama Rabbah Min Shmaya V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen Oseh Shalom B'mramam Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We're going to end with one more song together. We'll sing a nigun, a wordless melody to set us up for a joyful Shabbat to come. Sing along with Shabbat Shalom, everybody.